Hi everyone, this is Lilian with Lily Legal, where we help our clients get status for themselves and their families using the U.S. immigration law system. So today I will be going over some work visas. I know last week I told you all that I will be doing this video on work visas specifically because I have been getting so many questions about work visas, and I want to make sure that you know what they are, how you can potentially qualify for them, and how it can help you eventually become either get a green card, become a citizen, whatever it is that your plans are in the US, how the work visa can help you achieve those goals. Okay, so as always, if you would like to schedule a consultation with me, you can do that. All my contact information is in the description to this video. Um, but yeah, we can jump right in because this is one of those topics that is huge. There's so many different types of work visas out there that, you know, we're going to try to cover most of it today. Um, but we may have to do a part two. Okay. We may have to do a part two because there's just a lot. And I want to make sure that you know what the different types are, how they apply, and who qualifies for them. So before we get started, I just want to let you know I'm breaking this into different parts. So there's non-immigrant visas, which are visas that allow you to work in the US but not permanently live in the US. So these are sometimes referred to as temporary work visas. Okay. And I just have to apologize right now. I'm getting over a cold, so I might be a little scraggly. But I just wanted to come and bring you this video because it has been highly requested, and I want to make sure that I am answering your questions. If you have questions about anything that I'm talking about, go ahead, put it in the comments. I can answer it live. And if you're watching this on the replay, you can also put your questions in the comments. I will be going back and responding to you. So make sure you do that. Okay. So, like I said, we are going to be breaking this down into two categories: non immigrant visas and immigrant visas. So, immigrant visas lead to a green card, lead to then citizenship. Non immigrant visas on their own do not lead to a green card and citizenship. You would need eventually an immigrant visa to get to the green card and citizenship stage. Okay, so we're going to start with the non-immigrant visas because that's typically where people start in the process, right? Most people are not starting straight out with the immigrant visas. There's a process that goes through. So I want to start with the non-immigrant visas because that's typically the ones people are most familiar with. And today we're starting with the most popular one that I have gotten so many questions about, like literally. This is the H1B. And this is timely because guess what? H1B season is almost here. Okay. It is a visa that an employer, a US employer, can file for an employee, and the employee has to meet certain requirements. So, whatever the position is that the person will be filling needs to be considered a specialty occupation. Okay, must be a specialty occupation. So, the way the H1B process works, you start, well, for this upcoming H1B season, your employer is in charge of the whole application process. Okay, you are the employee, you will provide, your resume and all those things, but it's really your employer that is filing for you. Okay, that's one of the things with the H1B. It's not an individual filing for themselves. You need an employer. You must have an employer. It must be a specialty occupation. Okay. And then specialty occupations usually require at least a bachelor's degree, right? Um, if it requires a master's degree, that's even great because that puts you on a higher tier. Okay. So the more specialty it is, the better your chances are at getting the H-1B visa. So starting February 24th, the employers can register for a USCIS account. And then starting March 1st, they can start registering for the H-1B lottery. So that's the crazy thing about the H-1B. It's not just an employer wants to hire you, they go and file for the H-1B. No, no. They have to enter a lottery because there's only so many. There's 65,000 open H-1B spots. Okay. So the US government can only grant 65,000 H-1B visas. So when thousands, sometimes millions of employers apply for the H-1B, only 65,000 can actually get selected unless you have a US master's degree. So the H-1B general cap is 65,000 people. The master's cap, so if you have an advanced degree, and not just any advanced degree, this has to be a US advanced degree, right? US masters. You came to school in the US, you got your master's degree from the US, right? So now you are in a higher tier than someone that just has a bachelor's degree. So with that H1B master's cap, there's a special 25,000 number that's available for just people that are in that higher tier. So not only are you counted for the 65,000, but there's also a special 25,000 cap if you have a master's degree. So your chances are higher because you have what, 90,000 versus 65,000 chances of getting selected. So it is amazing. If you do have a master's degree from a US university, make sure that the lawyer that's representing your employer knows that fact, because it's going to make a difference. You will have a better chance of being selected for the lottery. So once you're selected for the lottery, you can actually start the visa process. And the good thing about the H-1B is they have premium processing, which means you can literally file with the premium processing, your employer pays for that, and they can get a decision within 15 days. Okay? They can get a response from USCIS on whether the case is going to be approved, whether they need more evidence within 15 days. So it makes such a huge difference to not only make sure you're registered on time, because again, 65,000, 25,000, you want to make sure that you are counted and that you are hopefully selected for the H-1B. Okay. Depending on your employer, if they qualify and they're exempt, which means they're either a government agency, or they're a nonprofit, or they're a university, or a nonprofit working with the government, or a university, they are exempt, which means you can bypass the whole lottery situation. You don't even have to look at the H-1B lottery when they are cap exempt. Okay. So if you're working for a university, government agency, or a nonprofit working specifically with a university or government agency, or even a for profit organization where your job is going to be working with a government agency or a university, doing research and things of that sort, you can go ahead and file for the H-1B because your employer is exempt from the lottery, so they can apply for you at any point in the year, and they can still use the, what did I say, premium processing, and get that decision within typically 15 days. So it is so important that you pay attention to not only if you qualify, right? So it's a two-part thing. You have to qualify and your employer has to qualify, right? When it comes to the cap exempt. When it comes to the lottery, you have to qualify. The job that you're applying for, again, it always has to be a specialty occupation. And the higher your position in the company, the more responsibilities you have, the better chances of it being considered a specialty occupation. Okay. So that is the H-1B process. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask. Oh, I see some questions. Hold on. Oh, thank you all so much. And Emmanuel watching from Liberia. Hi there. And Nathaniel, thank you so much. I'm glad you find this educational. That's really the purpose of this lives, is to give you as much information as possible and that's useful to you. Okay. So we just covered the H-1B because that is so important. Especially because, like I said, the H-1B process, the H-1B season, right? Us in the immigration world, it's an H-1B season every year, starting March 1st. This year is going from March 1st to March 18th. So you need to have your employer register for the lottery between that date. And the earlier they can register, the better. Okay. So just know it is a lottery. You want to get your stuff in as soon as possible so that you can be considered for it. All right. So the next thing, again, sticking with the non immigrant visas, we are looking at the L1s. So the L1 visa is a multinational company visa. So let's say there's a US company that also has a branch in a foreign country. They are able to file for an employee to go from their foreign office and come to the US office. So that's something that is unique to the L1 process. And you have to really pay attention and work with your company because they're the ones that are going to decide whether um, to file this for you or not. So if there's ever going to be a transfer between one company or the other, this is a great way to bring a manager, a specialist from a US, from a foreign country to the US, as long as the businesses are connected, right? The business in the US and the business in the foreign country have to have some form of relationship. So one has to own at least 50% of the other. So the US company can own 50% of the company, or the foreign company can own 50% of the US company. But that is how that relationship is created. It can be a parent subsidiary relationship between the companies. It can also be an affiliate, a branch office. All those things matter. So if you are, let's say you have a foreign company that wants to open a branch in the US. So great examples of these are foreign banks, right? Foreign banks like Kathy, from China opening a branch in the US is a great example of the L1 company relationship, right? So it's really important that if you are starting a company or you're already deeply involved in a company that wants to open a US branch, wants to own a US subsidiary, and they want you to come and run it, want you to come and, you know, be a part of that US branch, that you are looking at the L1 because that is one of the many ways that an employer can move employees from one company to the other, especially moving an employee from a non-US company to a US company and getting them status while they're here. Okay. And all these non-immigrant visas that I'm going to be talking about allows for the person, the main principal employee, to also be able to bring their spouse and their children that are under 21 with them. Okay. So it's not just the individual. If they are married, if they have children that are under 21, they can come as a derivative of that status. So it's so important that you pay attention to what relationship your company has with a US company, because that way you might be the one to bring it up to them that this is an option, right? You might be adding value to your company by letting them know that this is actually an option. Since you like what I do so much and you think I can bring value to your US company, well, this is a way that I can move from this base to the US and still be able to um, continue my duties and bring in my knowledge to the new US venture. So that's something to really explore with your company. Again, this requires an employer-employee relationship. This is not you filing on your own. So the employer is still the one that's filing for you. Okay? Employer is still filing for you, not you as an individual. I will get to the individual ones in a minute. Now, the next one that I want to cover is the H2B visa. We talked about the H1B. Let's talk about the H2B. This is a temporary non agricultural workers, right? These are people that are coming here. There is a special visa for people coming for agricultural purposes. So people that work on farms, there's special visas for that. And you, of course, again, have to go through an employer that qualifies, and you yourself have to qualify. So if you are a farmer and you like that kind of work, and you know a farm in the US that's willing to file for an H2A workers, and there's an and your country has to be on a list. So there's a list of countries that qualify for an H2A and an H2B visa. So not every single country in the world qualifies, unfortunately. So that's the main thing that limits the H2A and the H2B visas, is because not only do you have to qualify for the job that you're applying for, right? Your employer has to qualify, but you also have to be from a specific list of countries. If you are not a citizen of any of the countries on the list, unfortunately, you would not qualify for the H2A or H2B visas. Okay? So those are the main things to keep in mind there. I can tell you that for the H1, depending on where you are from the world, there's not a lot of, I can tell you right now, there's not a lot of African countries on the list. Okay? Not a lot. So depending on where you're from, you may qualify, but again, specifics. You have to be very clear on what country you're from and if you would qualify for that. And these are very temporary visas. Okay, these are just you're coming for a specific purpose, and when that season, or when whatever it is that you're looking for, or whatever it is that you were hired for, once that is over, you are expected, right? There's an expectation that you will then leave. Okay. Your employer in an H2A can bring you back every single year when it is, harvest season, or, you know, farmers know. Okay. If you work in a farm, there's seasons where the farm actually needs people to work. And when it's that season, they can always get people. So it's really, really important that you pay attention to what country you're from, if you could potentially qualify for this, and what you can qualify for. Okay. So that is the H1B, um, H2A, and H2B. Again, these are It is a lot of names and a lot of acronyms, but basically, those are temporary agricultural workers and temporary non agricultural workers. But again, the countries are the same. The main thing with work visas that I should flag for everyone is that the US government pays attention to work visas because they want to make sure that the positions that a foreign national is filling is not taken away from a US national, right? So if the employer can easily hire a US person for the position, the question becomes what's so special about you that the company has to bring you from outside of the US? Right? So the US government does pay attention to this. The Labor Department definitely is their job to pay attention to this as well. So they do make a point of making sure that you actually qualify, that there's no US worker that can fill that position. And the employer, typically in the agricultural field, the employer can um, show that they don't have qualified US employees to fill the position. So, um, if you're in that situation, that's where you would be. Now, the next one that I want to cover is one of my favorites because it's one of the ones people don't talk about, but it is so good. Okay, it is so good. It makes such a difference. And like the H2B, it is country specific. Okay, so keep that in mind. This is country specific. Not every single country is on the list. Not every single country is on the list. And that is the E1, E2 treaty visas. So this means your country and the US has a treaty that allows you to apply for this visa if you are engaging in substantial trade between you, your company that's in the foreign country, and a US and the US. Okay, so substantial trade between you and the US can get you an E2, an E1 visa. Again, if your country is on the list. The other one, the E2, is about your investment in a venture in the US. Okay. So when they're talking about investment, they're talking about substantial investment. Okay. There is, again, today I'm just talking about non-immigrant visas, but there is an immigrant visa that, depending on the type of um, location, will require you to invest like $500,000 to $1 million, depending on where you're located, in order to be able to get that type of visa. But with the E2 and E1, it's really about the venture, right? Let's say you want to start a small business in the US, and it typically takes 50,000 to start that type of business and get it running. That is what the US government is expecting you to have in order to start the business. Whatever the startup costs are, you should have that. You should either have already invested in the business or the venture, or you are in the process of investing. And whatever, again, substantial investment means if it is a business that costs $50,000 to start up and you only have $10,000, clearly you wouldn't qualify. Okay. So it is so, so important that not only do you look at, if your country is on the list. So we're assuming your country is on the list. And now you're going to pay attention to whether the business venture you're going into actually meets the requirements, right? If you have the money to invest in this business venture. And if you don't have the money to invest in the business venture, unfortunately, you would not qualify. Even though you're from that country, even though, you invested in a venture, or even though you're doing trade with the US, if it's not substantial, then it wouldn't count. Okay. And then just to go over substantial trade, they're talking about how much you're trading with the US, not the dollar amount. Okay, not the dollar amount. So let's say you only trade with the US twice a year, and it's always $1 million trade, right? Whatever it is that you're buying, and you're buying from the US or you're trading with the US, it's always $1 million, but you only do it twice a year. Versus someone else that maybe, you know, every month they're buying stuff from the US, and it is, let's say, worth $10,000, but they're consistent that every single month there's trade going between them and the US versus your two trades. The person that has a more consistent trade is going to have a better chance of getting the visa than you that only trades twice a year, even though your dollar amount is higher than the other person, but their trade is more consistent. So it is one of those visas out there that I love for people that actually meet the requirements and are from that country. I always flag it for my clients. So typically, I do go over, when someone comes to me, I go over with them, what country are you from? What could you potentially qualify for? How much money, if you're trying to invest in a business, how much money do you have available to invest in that business? So I can tell you right now, I know I have a lot of Liberians that watch my live. So Liberia is on the list for this type of visa. Okay. Liberia has an E1 and an E2 treaty with the US. So that basically means if you're from Liberia and you have the money to substantially invest in a business in the US, you could potentially qualify for this visa. Another option is if you are um, a US trading partner, right? You are from Liberia, you have a business in Liberia, and you are trading with the US consistently, you also would qualify for this business, for this visa. And the great thing about the E1 and E2 visas that is different from the L1 visa is that the business does not have to exist after you get to the US. Right? You can come to the US and just focus on the venture that you're investing in. But for the L1, like I said, it's a multinational company, right? So the foreign company still has to exist and the US company still has to exist. So that's the difference there. But for the E1, E2 visa, one, there's no minimum requirement, there's no minimum amount. So that's a great question. Thank you so much. That is a great question. For the E1, E2, there's no minimum amount required. However, they say it has to be substantial. And what is substantial? So if you want to start a business that costs, the startup costs all in is 100,000, and you're the only one, right? You don't have partners. It's just you starting this venture, and the startup cost is 100,000. You're expected to have the startup costs. Okay, so it's not any type of business. It's not a specific dollar amount. It's really specific to the type of business that you want to start. Okay, there's no dollar amount. There's no like arbitrary. It has to be 500,000 or a million. It all comes down to what business are you starting and what are the costs to start that type of business. Okay, to start and run that type of business. So those are the things to keep in mind. It is so important that if you are financially able, that you look into this type of visa, because it can literally, you know, bring you into the US, live and work here, have your family here, and work, basically live here and go to school. So yeah, there's no minimum financial requirement. It is one of those The treaty visas are again country specific, and like I said before, because I have a lot of um, African clients and specifically Liberians that watch my lives, I just want to flag that Liberia is on the list. Senegal is on the list. Um, Let me just go through this real quick. Tunisia is on the list. Togo is on the list. Okay. So if you are from any of those countries, I'm just going to name them as I see them come up. Congo is on the list. All right. Ethiopia is on the list. So if you are from these countries and you have a venture that you want to invest in, oh, and if I forget, Cameroon is also on the list. So these are countries that have a treaty with the US that allows them to apply for these types of visas. So not every single country qualifies. Not every single country qualifies. So feel free, ask me your questions. The E1, E2 visa is one of those that I absolutely adore because of um, the opportunity it provides for the person. So definitely look into those if you are in a position um, to financially invest in a company in the US. Okay, um, it's not cheap, right? So even though there's no dollar amount, it's not like, oh, I have $1,000, I can start a business. That's not really what they're looking for there. So it's really important that you really pay attention to what type of what type of business and how much you're able to invest, or in how much you should be investing, I should say. Right, it's not just about how much you're able to invest, but how much you should be investing. Because again, if it's $100,000 business and you only have $10,000 to invest, that's not going to work. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then the next one that I want to flag for you, that does not require an employer to file for you, right? That's the great thing about the E1, E2 visa, is that it does not require an employer to file for you. Everything else I've talked about, the H1B, the L1, the H2A, the H2B, they all require an employer to file for you. But this E1, E2 does not require an employer to file for you. You are the one that's filing for that petition. So it is great. All right. Now, the next one is the O1 visa. Okay. The O1 visa is so great for people that meet the requirements, right? The O1 visa is a specialty visa. It's for people with extraordinary abilities and achievement. Okay, your ability and your achievement, that's what's going to bring you into the O1 level. So who qualifies for an O1? Musicians that are well known, right? um, Renowned musicians fit into the O1. Artists, scientists that are, again, well known. So if you've won a Nobel Prize, you can get an O1. Okay. So that's one of the things that they look at, is what type of awards have you won? How are you, how well are you known in your field? Because that's important. Okay. It's not just that, oh, I think I'm great. It's also, how good are you really objectively, right? Not what you think, but objectively, compared to your peers, how good are you? So athletes fit into this, actresses, actors. Um, so it's not just, even in business, right? Business people fit into this. Again, depending on the type of business and how great you are at your business, can also get you um, this. So if you're coming here and you want to, you know, work here, live here, but not apply for an immigrant visa, this is an option for you if, again, you fit into this category of extraordinary individuals. extraordinary ability and achievement. So it's really, you really have to document not just what you do, but how well you do it and how well you're known for what you do. Okay. So someone that is able to get a record deal with, let's say, Atlantic Records, right? That clearly shows your level and achievement, your ability to get a record deal. Most people are not gifted like that. Most people are not able to get a record deal. So therefore, you being able to get one is great. It will help you if this is the type of visa you want to apply for. Okay. So that's the old one. You are the one applying for this, not um not an employer, but it would be helpful if you had like a job lined up. Okay? Just saying. If you're coming here to do a movie, that might be a thing too. So think about what your abilities are, how well you're known for what you do, and then that will help you decide if this is something that you could potentially apply for and get. Okay. So far, we have covered the H-1B, which is the specialty occupation your employer is filing for you to come and work for them in this specific field, right? In this specific position. Okay. There's a lottery. The cap is 65,000 people can get an H-1B a year. There's an additional cap. If you have a U.S. master's degree, you can add 25,000 to that 65,000. Okay. So that you can have a better chance of getting selected for the lottery and then applying for your visa. We talked about the L1, which is a multinational, where a multinational company wants to bring an employee from one company to the US company. So this can be a parent subsidiary company, this can be a branch office in the US, or it can be that the US company is affiliated with a company outside of the US and they want to bring an employee from that affiliate company to the US. The main thing to keep in mind is the relationship, one of those companies has to own 50% of the other. Okay. So that's really important for the L1. But again, you need an employer. And once you move a manager, an employee, an executive from one company to the other, the foreign company still has to exist and be running. Okay. Now, we also talked about the E1, E2 treaty. This is one where I did say that Liberia, Cameroon, and certain other countries are on the list for the E1, E2 treaty visa. So make sure that you are looking at if you have substantial trade with the US already, not that you're going to, but that you already have it. Okay. The investment is either you already invested in a venture in the US or you are in the process of investing in a venture in the US. And like I said, there is no requirements as far as the minimum amount you have to invest. Okay, there's no requirements on that. However, depending on how much it costs to start a business, you are expected to have that money. Okay, I gave the example of if it's $100,000 startup cost and you only have $10,000, you're not going to meet the requirements. So keep that in mind. We talked about the H2B and the H2A, which are the temporary agriculture workers and the temporary non-agricultural workers. These people are coming here for a specific purpose, a specific time frame, and they're going back. They're not here staying 5 years, right? It might be a summer position. They come in for that summer, they finish, and they leave. This is seasonal, not a year round employment. And then we just talked about the O1. You need to have extraordinary ability or achievement in your field. It can be business, art, um, music, whatever it is that your field is, um, you definitely want to um, explore how you can show that extraordinary achievement. And then the last one, the last non immigrant visa that I want to cover with you all today is the P1 through P3 visas, okay? Because these are special, okay? These are very specific to what it is you're doing, okay? There's the P1A, which is for athletes, right? You're coming here for a specific um, performance, right? Competition. So you're here to perform at a specific athletic competition as an individual athlete. Okay. So you are internationally recognized level. Okay. You're not just, oh, I want to do track and field, so I want to come to the US and learn. No, you are the number one. Okay. You are internationally recognized in that field. Whatever it is, you are internationally recognized. It could be a team sport, right? If it's a team, your team is internationally recognized. Maybe you as an individual may not be, but your team as a whole is. And you are a part of that internationally recognized team. You are a professional athlete, right? It can be, you can also be a coach, but the coaching, there is some caveats with coaching because that's where people get in trouble. They're like, oh, I want to play and I also want to be a coach. You can be one or the other. Okay. So you can be a coach as part of a team or franchise that's located in the US. But the team also has to be a member of a foreign league. Okay. For you to be a coach, to come here to be a coach under the P1A athlete visa, the team that you're coming to play for or that you're coming to coach for has to be a member of a foreign league. So it has to be a US team located in the US, but they're also a member of a foreign league. So that foreign league part is really important, and that's where people get tripped up because they'll say, oh, you know, we have competitions all over the US, but however, they don't do any competitions outside of the US. That's going to affect whether you would qualify as a P1A athlete for coaching specifically. Now, internationally recognized performance groups are also under the P1 visa option. Again, if you are a member of an internationally recognized entertainment group. 50. Like, it's so important that you pay attention to how the makeup of your group, right? And at least 75% of the members of the group that are coming here have to have a substantial relationship with the group for at least 1 year. So it's not like you create a group today and you're like, okay, we're going to go and apply for the P1B visa. No, you want a group that has lasted for at least a year so that you can show that each of your athletes are committed to your group and they're not just going to disappear once they come to the US. They are committed to the goals of the group and winning whatever competition or, whatever performance they're coming here to do, that they're going to focus on that and not disappear into the US either. Okay. And then there's, of course, the P2 visa. This is for individual performers and people that are part of a group, and they're coming here under a exchange program. So that's the key here. There has to be a program already in place that the performers here are going to a foreign country, and the ones in the foreign country are coming here to learn the US ways of things, and the ones that are here that are going over there are going to learn whatever country's way of doing whatever performance. So it's really important that you're paying attention to what organizations already have a reciprocal agreement. So again, something to keep in mind is some of the organizations that have a reciprocal relationship may not be in your country. So it's really important that you pay attention to that. If you have any questions, go ahead, put them in the comments. I'm just going to go over the P's real quick and then we can close this up. And next week, we'll go over the immigrant visa options for employees and businesses. Okay. So the third option under the P is the P3 visa. This is for athletes and entertainers coming to be a part of a culturally unique program. I love the P3 visa. Okay, if it's not obvious, the P3 visa is one of those that, like, you don't have to have a reciprocal relationship between the US and the country. You are coming here for a culturally unique program. So, example of people that have been able to get a P3 visa are ballroom dancers that are coming here to specifically teach a certain type of dance, right? Um, because it's culturally unique to them. Um, it's not just, oh, we're doing the same type of dance. It might be a dance that's specific to a country, a region, um, a type of individual. So if the culturally unique thing is that you work with individuals that are disabled to ballroom dance, that's culturally unique. That's something that you can build on. But again, you do need to be coming here for a purpose, right? Like I said, it can be to coach, right? You have an employer that's willing to have you come in and be and teach and be a part of that culturally unique program. So it's not just about you being able to have this culturally unique thing that you do, but you have to have also a US end of things, right? On the US end, you need an employer that's like, yep, I want that person. The way that they do what they do is different, it's unique, and they're the ones that I want to do this particular job because they are so good at what they do. So that is the P1, 2, and 3 visas. I hope you all got a lot of out of this. Like I said, this is the first time I'm actually covering this in detail on my channel, and I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it very helpful. And before I close out, I'm just going to answer Madison's question. So I am married. My dad is US citizen. He filed in 2021. How long is it going to take to go for a visa interview? So, V Madison, you're going to be waiting for quite a while. The reason I say that is because you're married, you're going to fall into a specific category, right? Married children of US citizens are taken over 10 years right now. So I can tell you that they are processing cases from 2008, 2009. So that's how long people have been waiting. So people that filed in 2008, 2009 are just now getting those interviews. So that should tell you how long you'll have to wait in order to get your own interview. But it is good to have it in the systems because once you do get your interview, your spouse can come with you. And if you have children that are under 21, which they, you know, that are under 21, they can come with you as well. So, great question. Because it was filed in 2021, you're going to be waiting at least 10 years for that visa interview. At least 10 years. Sorry, but that's just how um, the visa process works right now for children of US citizens. Okay. So I hope I got all the questions. I believe I did. Please, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you found this helpful, or if you know someone that needs to hear this, go ahead and share it with them. And if you are watching in a place where you can subscribe, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. As always, if you want to schedule a consultation with me, you can do that by going to my website, lilylegal.com, or by calling my office. My number is in the description to this video. All my contact information is always in there. And once again, I am Lilian Chukura. I am the owner of Lily Legal, where we do immigration law and we do it well. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next week for more Immigration Live, where we will be talking about immigrant visas for work visas, right? Immigrant work visas that lead to green cards. Okay, that's what we'll be talking about next week. So make sure to join me, same time, same place, right? Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every week. Don't forget. And I will see you all then. Bye for now.